And I truly hope that the Maarten prosecutor's office will look at what's happening in the Ennia case. And I don't know if anybody has followed what's happening in Curacao, and I'll talk about it a little later. They're now telling all the commissioners that were involved in taking high stipends that they got to pay back. An Ennia board stipend used to be about 5,000 guilders a month. Most of them here collected 25,000 a month, if not more. Because getting bonuses of $1 million or $2 million is absurd. Not even being on the board, yet being paid for services by the company is theft. Some of them already gone to courts trying to justify their payments, etc. It's all nonsense. But maybe the public prosecutor's office can at least tackle that problem. In Curacao, they went as far as asking for all those involved be jailed. Otherwise, corruption will show its ugly head, seeing who all were involved. I'll get to that story later. But what's going to happen in Maarten? Are we just going to close our eyes and say, well, it didn't happen here, it happened in Curacao, so we will not prosecute those living here? Seeing Curacao doesn't have any capacity, maybe you can offer a helping hand, because in Maarten we sure as hell have capacity. We went in people's house with 10 rechercheurs and 2 judges of instruction. So we have capacity. So maybe we should then tackle the Maarten part, where we have about 3 people involved. What do you think? Make sense, or we leave it alone? Ennia loan. Is it legal or not? Do we really need it? And do we really want it? I decided to delve into this matter a little more, because there are various issues that need to be addressed, and our government needs to grow up and take a stance. Maarten took various liquidity loans under very specific conditions, and the repayment was slated for October 2023, 10th of October 2023, I think it was. As time passed, discussions started regarding the repayment and also the interest rate, which would be gotten on the capital market for the loan. An interesting point here, though, in this discussion is that Holland has a much better rating on the international market, the Moody rating, for example, than Maarten does. Which means the risk of lending for the Netherlands is much, much smaller than that of St. Maarten. Even though we're in the kingdom, we're an autonomous island country, so our rating is a little different. Now, when Holland goes on the market, they get the interest of 3.1%. When Maarten goes on the market, we're looking at 5.1 or higher. Remember, Holland said between 6 and 8. They brought it down now to 5.1. The problem is this. The liquidity loans were first loaned to us at 0% or whatever the market rates become. Remember, who took these loans? The Netherlands did. Who's taking the refinancing loans? The Netherlands are. Not we. Because if we are taking them, we don't need to take them through the Netherlands. If St. Maarten was taking its own loans on the capital market, which we need to ask the Dutch permission for in accordance to the RFT law, that kingdom consensus law, where they can say, no, I ain't giving you permission. You can only borrow it from me. What nonsense are we talking about? Our rate is 3.1. Van Huffelen could put on more dancing shoes and dance away all through the second chamber. But maybe the Maarten government needs to go to courts and ask them, can somebody please tell me what's happening? Because the issue at hand that we need to address is simple. The interest rate is the Dutch interest rate because we are lending from the Dutch. I am not lending from the capital market. Or is what Aruba said correct? The Dutch want to make money off of us on these loans. Because that's what Evelyn Cruz accused the Dutch of doing. But here we have it. Holland is lending for 3.1%. But they want me to pay 5.1 if I don't deal with Ennia. So you're making money off of me then. You're going to punish me by making me pay you more money. Because I'm lending from you. Not lending from the capital market. I'm lending from you. So Article 38 of the Charter means not a damn thing. Y'all want to talk? This is the talk we need to start having. Because here in Maarten, a lot of people like to talk, but they don't read. They don't follow what's happening in the rest of the kingdom. But if you don't do that, sir or ma'am, you don't know what you're talking about. And our government, with their stupidity of wait and see, man, grow up, Madam Prime Minister. Nobody waiting on you, and nobody don't want to see you. Either you pay or you haul your backside. That's it. That's what the Dutch tell you. So don't come about you in a wait and see mode. Because if you're in a wait and see mode, why you down in the UN now for? Waiting and seeing. Because you don't care what happened here. Come September 30th, we got a problem. If Curacao don't take the loan now suddenly, we might lose the loan. Utter nonsense. Curacao has their agreement. St. Maarten has their agreement. Aruba has their agreement. They are not kingdom agreements. They're underlying agreements. And you can remember last time how I do that? With your underlying agreements? An underlying agreement means I don't need parliament. I'm going to do what I want. I'm going to take the loans through the country. And there's nothing that MP Rolando and his merry men can do. That's your plan. Tell them what your plans be. Because when I listen to your finance minister run the mouth on Lady Grace, that's where he's going. With an underlying agreement, you don't need parliament. You don't need parliament. Tell the country so. Tell them so. That's what you did the last time when you flip-flopped to Coho. Was it going to be a kingdom law? It was an underlying agreement. Parliament can't say nothing about that. All Parliament can do is fire you. But the agreement will stand. Continuation in government is there. You see, these are problems that if we don't understand them, then we can't speak about them. The intricacies that are happening now is why we are not real. We lie to each other. We sell out each other. And then you come and talk and cry like a little baby because there's a good gentleman ripping our ears asunder. I don't agree with a lot of things he say, you know. But you know what? Like you said, freedom of speech, right? Everybody can say what they want in this country. Because when push comes to shove, your own members were taking the good gentleman's company, the little fake plane that I make and throw it in the garbage. Please. If you all doing it too, don't cry foul. But let's get back to Ennia. Because Ennia ain't finished. The Netherlands brought in a condition of 600 million we got to take between St. Maarten and Curacao, about 100 and 120 million for us, based on the share in the central bank. Not the amount of people we have, right? The share in the central bank is playing a big role here now. We might end up between 120 and 150 million dollars if we don't watch out, as our share of the 600 million dollars. We go from 5.1% if we don't take it to 3.1% if we take it. And we get different loan terms, 15 years, 22 years, and 30 years. That 30 years, that's a generation. So we are going to burden a generation to come. My children are 30 years now. We're going to burden them until they're 60 with paying back loans for something that we didn't do. The country did not do Ennia. Yes, the country is responsible for the central bank. That's why I'm happy that in Curacao there's a movement now that is asking that the commissioners that sat on the board of Ennia when the fleecing took place, and the people in the central bank that were there when this fleecing took place, be charged, prosecuted, and jailed. That's what's happening in Curacao right now. But we naturally ain't gonna do that. Because we just parade them on stage and call them heroes. But that's gonna change. Believe you me, that's gonna change, because in Curacao, nobody getting paraded on stage. They're actually being shot down off of stages right now. So again, there are a lot of things that are gonna play a big case like this, because Ennia has become the gift of gifts. It is now giving up big people in our community to the courts for wrongdoings. Do I agree with it? I don't know. I really, really don't know this. Right now, I am confused because I don't have enough insight. The verdict is a very complicated verdict. And I myself am waiting to get some help from some people that understand the law better than I do to explain me the intricacies in this verdict. But again, we have more issues, because remember, the courts now said Ansari is found guilty for 143 million, and they want to review the dividend payments that were made by jacking up the value of Mullet Bay. So what they did over the years, Mullet Bay went from 50 million, 80 million, 150 million, 200 million, 250 million, 300 million, 250 million, 400 million, 450 million, 500 million. Why did they do that? As they kept jacking up the value of Mullet Bay, the dividend, the company was making more money on paper. So they were taking out the money as dividend. That's what they did. That's one of the ways they did it. Look, to take out 1.2 billion, that's a lot of money. You gotta find a lot of good ways to do this. But they did it using Mullet Bay as their primary scapegoat, using dividend. Now, what happens here now? With this, again, we are getting ourselves into serious ramifications when it comes to repaying. And I'm saying, when you look at the budget of St. Maarten and you look at the budget of Curacao, there is no room for such a loan. That's one. Two, the CFT stated in no uncertain terms, do not give that loan. We do not recommend it. And basically we're against it. Van Hoffelen, in an eloquent way, said, I have taken your advice under review, or under consideration, or I have taken note of your advice. Any which one you want to use. Bottom line is, she continuing with the loan. This loan became a problem in the Netherlands. So the Netherlands demanded, listen to the word I'm using, demanded to see the letters. The second chamber wanted to see all the CFT correspondence on this loan. And you know what? They got it. Only we can get it. We can take it off of the website of the second chamber, and we can read exactly what the CFT wrote and where they had issues. You see the difference between Holland and here? Here, everything is secretive, top secret. In Holland, they discuss it, and they make decisions that they believe are rational. We, on the other hand, we play hide and seek with it. And we talk about integrity. and transparency and good governance and corporate governance. Big words we use, but according to me, we have no clue what they really mean. But again, like I said, the RFT law clearly states that some of these things are not allowed. The RFT law was made to ensure that the countries don't overextend their financial riches and obligations where the country cannot move forward in a normal basis. St. Maarten, at this point in time, 75% of its inhabitants live under the poverty line of 3,500 guilders. 75%. And you're going to jam us another loan for 150 million euros, dollars, and then tell me you give me another 30 years to go pay again? But that's not what the law says. You're breaking the law yourself because it's convenient. But according to me, and I might be wrong, this is a kingdom law. We can't change it without their permission. But they can't change it either without our permission. But then again, we're going to see who's boss and who's follower. We're going to see just now. In Curacao, I'm concluding on this matter. In Curacao, the prosecutor's office decided not to press charges against Ansari or anyone involved in the stealing of the 1.2 million guilders from a legally formed company. Normally, I would wanted to have believed that money laundering criminal organization would have come to mind instantly. But they stated they don't have the capacity. And in Curacao right now, there's a whole to-do in Parliament about the prosecutor's capacity. Because they're saying if there is no capacity, then the country doesn't really have a justice system in place properly. And the Minister of Justice should work on capacity right away. Because the message that they need to send is there's no place for corruption in the country. Even when it's one of the former governors that did it, or the former president of the courts, the common courts that did it. Even then, it's not allowed. So get your capacity, because we got to go at all of them. Those are the words of parliamentarians in Curacao right now. Hopefully, it will reach St. Maarten too. But again, it is the same Dutch that made all the ministers of the 3 autonomous countries sign along to cross-border crime fighting. I don't know of a better example than Ennia when it comes to taking all the money out of Curacao and putting it into America. But America ain't sitting down waiting for us here in Curacao and Aruba and St. Maarten. Aruba's out of this one. They already grabbed hold of the son of MC Trump for wire fraud. They're already gone at him now. He's living in Miami, but they're gone at him. The problem is this. What is it that Ansari has over them or against them that nobody going no place? I don't think he's a diplomat. So diplomatic immunity doesn't hold water. The intermediary verdict shows that most probably Ansari will end up paying all of the money back. There's a paper trail there. It's not I think it's so, I believe it's so. No. There's a paper trail with proof showing what it was. So I think that's going to come to an end. The government of St. Maarten should not accept the loan, nor the threat of a higher interest rate if we don't take the Ennia loan, because the whole process based on what I stated above is illegal. This whole pressure they're putting on us is an illegal move. And maybe we should challenge it. Might is right is never a good way to govern. And unfortunately now for us here in the Caribbean, the Dutch government has reached that stage. Might is right. And they're going to ram it down our throats. If Curacao rejects the loan, that should have no influence on us whatsoever, because we are not part of Curaçao's loan. Again, I still believe that we have our own self-determination and we can decide what we're going to do and what we're going to do. And this thing might have to be done a different way, because I think if I read it correctly, there was a court case, an arbitration started in London by one of the people that was accused. I think it was Mr. Abdallah. He has been, he has taken the Dutch courts, the Dutch state to courts. He's asking for 130 million in damages. He's being represented by one of the most legal sound minds that I know of the Antilles, Maarten. And basically, what they're doing by the tribunal is going after the plundering of Ennia by the shareholder Ansari and his team. They're saying that because the central bank took Ennia under its wing and for 4.5 years didn't allow anything to happen, they lost their money. They lost a lot of money. But Mr. Andrawas went from a different angle. An angle that most of us that don't really know too many things about treaties would have never found it. But Maarten, that's a man of treaties. Mr. Andrawas was born in Lebanon. Became an investor in Curacao, listen to the time, 2011. When was Molybdenum destroyed? 1995. So in 2011, he became an investor. At that time, he purchased shares in Parman International BV, a company registered with the Chamber of Commerce. Due to the, remember, he wasn't there when it started. He bought in shares. Due to the emergency regulations, Ennia shareholders were unable to access their assets for over 4.5 years. And here is the kicker. According to Article 11 of the Lebanon-Netherlands Treaty, it is ultimately the Kingdom of the Netherlands that is responsible for the actions of the central bank, according to the press information released at the weekend. This is a very interesting something, because when you read this, it shows the link of our central bank and the Dutch central bank right away. It shows it. And it shows it who's ultimately responsible, even though we're an autonomous state. This is going to be a very interesting approach from this angle, and I don't know what's going to come out of it, but I'll tell you one thing. If this makes any traction, we'll have a whole different ballgame at a central bank just now again. I need to strongly advise the Parliament of St. Maarten, and by extension the government, not to take the loan and challenge the Dutch in courts if they adjust the interest rates upwards instead of keeping the 3.1% as we agreed upon earlier before the whole Ennia saga. Like I said, this is what it is. And if government still wants to take an onderliggende regeling, so an underlying regulation between the two governments, St. Maarten and the Netherlands, by excluding the parliament, then I think budget 2023 and 2024 should be packed up immediately. Also, unbelievable, yet politically correct, is the Dutch position on the Ennia options, and believing that to give the two countries a loan to save Ennia is the best option, as the people of the country shouldn't suffer because of one man's crime, Mr. Ansari. The story about how they cannot go after Ansari justifying wasn't truly discussed, even though it's the same second chamber that approves the money, the 25 million extra every year for the RSC TBO to come after us, our governments, our people. You see, I don't know what all this refinancing is going to look like, but I do know that just like how the Dutch government bailed out KLM for 3-4 billion, billion, when things were going wrong, why can't they now bail out Ennia for 600 million euro? Not 4 billion, 600 million euro, and safeguard what went wrong? It can. Maybe use the central bank as the loan facilitator. Because the central bank has money. That does not pretend they don't have. They have. The last time, Curacao got a loan to bail out Hero, a bank of their making, a bank that was for them. Again, I'm saying, why is St. Maarten being burdened? And please understand me right with this. Yes, we have a lot of pensioners, and I am one of them that fights for seniors. But we need to put responsibility where responsibility is due. Ennia was fleeced, not St. Maarten, not Curacao. So Ennia should be given a loan. And that CFT now finds that Ennia doesn't really need bailing out, but more bleeding to death. That's a different story, and that's what CFT's account. I firmly believe that Ennia should be taken care of. Another option is that the insurances for all the people in St. Maarten from Ennia be passed on to APS as a special project with a price tag. That too can happen. And then maybe those people from Ennia and Curacao be passed on to the Curaçaoian pension funds. That too might be an option. But there are options. And we shouldn't just throw it down at the feet of the governments. Because then you have thrown it down at the feet of the people in the country. And that's not right. That's not fair. There are solutions. We just need to be able to talk about them and negotiate them in a win-win for the country and the pensioners, instead of destroying the country with an additional loan that we know we cannot afford.